Okay, so how many of you have ever felt anxious about having a math test or a timed drill? Fear of getting the wrong answer, or frustrated trying to memorize a list of rules and algorithms? I'm betting there's a few of you out there because I know I was one of those students. Joe Bowler describes math as a subject of beauty and creativity. Children are naturally curious and enjoy the mysteries and challenges of math. However, for some reason, once our students enter school, this beauty is sometimes lost. As a tool to frame my inquiry and guide my thinking and organize my thoughts, I used Halbert and Kayser's spirals of inquiry model. I began my inquiry by taking a look at what was going on for my learners. And what I observed was a reluctance to participate and a lack of engagement. Students appeared unmotivated. Next, I conducted one-on-one interviews using Halbert and Kayser's 4 key questions. And what really stood out to me was that nearly every single student mentioned math at some point in our conversations. They either expressed a dislike for math or they felt they were not good at math. Many believed math was important and they wanted to improve their skills, but at the same time, I think you're the right spot there.
Yeah. Back. Go back to.
Yeah, there we go. Many believed math was important, they wanted to improve their skills, but at the same time they seemed to lack an understanding of what math really is. They often believe that math success means memorizing methods and procedures rather than actually just making sense of situations and recognizing relationships. What I really wanted to know was why the majority of my students disliked math and felt unsuccessful. So I decided to focus on developing positive attitudes, increasing confidence and engagement, and promoting mathematical mindsets. I wondered how I might be contributing to my students' negative attitudes. So my hunch was that maybe I wasn't allowing enough time for exploration, games, manipulatives. Maybe I felt pressure to cover all the curriculum, or perhaps my assessment practices were causing anxiety among my students. Was I not creating experiences that allowed my students to make connections and to see that math is all around them? Was math not meaningful to them? Were they unable to see how it relates to real life? Was I even modeling my own passions for math? So, where did I turn to learn more about what to do? I turned to Joe Bowler, Professor of Mathematics of Education at Stanford, and Dylan William, author and education consultant, to learn more about mathematical mindsets and formative assessment. I also looked to my district curriculum support teachers, Doug and Debbie Nelson, who inspired me by engaging my students with 3 active tasks. Not only did I learn exciting new strategies, but I was also given the valuable time to observe my students objectively. What did I set out to do differently or aspire to do differently? Well, I taught my students about growth mindsets, particularly mathematical mindsets. I implemented formative assessment strategies and 3-act tasks, and I introduced math journals to my students. Joe Bowler says we must teach students the science of the brain and ensure our students recognize that everyone is capable of being a high achiever in math. I love how she says students need to recognize that the journey to an answer is as important as the destination. Dylan William says if we focus on the 5 key formative assessment strategies, students will be engaged, motivated, and better able to self-regulate and take ownership of their learning. Doug and Debbie introduced me to 3-act tasks. These tasks hook the viewers with a real-life problem, usually with a video or a photo, and then in groups the students estimate a reasonable answer and discuss the possible solutions and strategies they used. It meets all of Bowler and Williams' criteria for tasks that engage others. It was now time to gather evidence to see if my actions had made a difference. Overall, I believe they did. Student reflections in their math journals about stand-up math included such comments as, "It was a fun challenge. I like to work in groups, so I'm pretty confident about stand-up math. 2 brains are better than 1. We get to work with different people every time, and we get to see each other's ideas. It's all about cooperation and responsibility. It makes sure everyone is participating. It's easy to do revisions." Here is an example of students living and doing the core competencies during one of Joe Bowler's big idea lessons on division. Phoenix and the other students were actively engaged in communicating, thinking, and ensuring that all group members had a role in completing the task. What are my next steps? I plan to teach the competencies using big idea lessons and 3-act tasks, giving students the tools they need to self-reflect, and I'll continue to develop formative assessment strategies, especially self-assessment and the use of portfolios. And as my school Pro-D contact, a new member of the District Joint Pro-D Committee, I'll support and encourage staff to continue learning through the inquiry process and promoting student inquiry in their classrooms. On a final note, I'd like to share a card that Jean-Pierre made for me at the end of last year. It appears that the experiences she had in math that year had a significant impact on her learning. Thank you for listening to that.